Hi, welcome to my happy place. We are on Spin Effects number 14. And like all the rest of our Spin Effects, the collection, which is a set of 5 templates, comes in 3.5, 5.5, 7.5, 9.5, 11.5 inch stitch outs. And here is a picture. I don't know how well you can see it of an 8-point stitch out there. Here are the pictures of the templates along with the shank size, mine being a low shank. When you open up the instruction envelope, you're going to see again that this is available in 7 sizes. Along with the 5 sizes in the collection, we also have a 1.5 and 2.5 in the mini Spin Effects collection. So what we're going to show you today is 8 rotations and 16 rotations. I want to just go over this template a little bit to get started here. First, I want you to notice, and I haven't been going through all of these markings with the templates because I plan on doing that when we start using the templates in a little different manner. But what I do want you to notice, now we're getting into a little more complicated templates. And remember, along here, these are the places, I call these mountains or cliffs, falling off the cliffs, because it is easy to do. Here we have a nice, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous curve coming up here and then down here. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we stay slower on these curves as we're going around them. We also want to make sure that we don't push the template into the foot as we're going around them or push the foot into the template. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set that off to the side. And I have my 11-inch square here. And I'm going to turn that there. That light does help a little bit. We do have a tack, place for the tack we're not going to use. And I am going to, see, even though it's the same fabric, it's the same batting and everything else, I still need to readjust from block to block. You know, it's just good practice. And if I forget, the block is going to remind me to do it. Okay, there we go. We want the top of this foot to just kiss the top of the fabric. In that respect, if it's set right. So what's going to happen is we're not going to end up with any skipped stitches, which will occur if the foot is too high, and we will be able to easily glide that fabric sandwich, that quilt sandwich, underneath the foot if it's set up just right. Now I also want, before I get started with my actual stitching, to check my tension. I just take and make some stitches on the outside edge of the block, and I'm going to go ahead and trim these threads off. You don't have to worry about burying or trimming them off, so they're not going to show because these are going to be cut off anyway. What I'm looking for here, I'm just going to pull you in a little bit more so you can see here. What I'm looking for is to make sure that I don't have any of the top thread on the back, and I don't have any bobbin thread on the front, and I don't. This is just a really beautiful tension. So we're going to go ahead and pull back out here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up my bobbin thread at the center point. I have 16 reference lines drawn on this block. I have used my 8-point crosshair ruler, and I do pull the lines out a little further depending on which ruler I use, because our rulers do come in different sizes. Of course, we have the mini set of rulers, and then we have an 8.5-inch ruler, and we have a 12-inch ruler, and this is our 8.5 inch. So you'll see on this 11-inch square, I still need to extend those lines just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my first stitch in place. I know I've talked about this before. The reason that I do that is so that I don't end up with toe catchers. Here's the first area where I can easily fall off that cliff. So you'll notice how I slowed way down on that area. The outside here is going to be a point, so we want to take one extra stitch there. And that's going to make our point nice and pointy, because we all want a pointy point. Okay, here again, I'm going back now around that area where it's very easy to fall off that cliff, and just slow down, take my time, and it is perfect. Okay, as we've done with all the other blocks, I'm going to go to the opposite side of the block, and we do that again so that we draw our fabric in a nice, even manner. Every stitch we make draws that fabric in just a little bit. And there we go. We made it around the cliff without falling off. Remember not to push that foot or that template against the other. We just want to use that template as a guide. This is basically guided free motion, and the template is our guide. I'm going to stop right here, and the reason I am is I'm going to pull this thread up, and I am going to go ahead and trim it off. Now, I can do that because we're going to be going over this spot several times, and it will lock in those threads so that they don't fray on us. Okay, come on, you. There we go. The machine that I'm working on is a vintage. It's a 1950s model vintage sewing machine. So it has no bells and whistles. It's just a straight stitch machine. That's all it does is stitch forwards and backwards. I find I like this machine better than the very expensive machines I own for ruler work. It just, okay. Look at what happened here. I fell off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that, because I was busy talking and I looked up and I didn't notice I had gone off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull some stitches back here until I know I'm solidly on the template, which is going to be right about here. Okay, I'm going to pull both of those threads up to the top. Now, you could pull all the way back to the center if you wanted to. Is that a good idea? Probably if you're a beginner, yes, I would say it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line up my template, and I'm going to move. What I want to do is make sure that I'm going exactly where I need to be, and I'm going to give myself one stitch on either side that I'm going to pull that bobbin thread up. Notice I'm not letting go of my template. I want my template to stay very still at this point, because if it doesn't, I could end up with a little bump in my design. I don't want that if at possible. You'll also notice my foot came very loose, and so I'm going to want to fix that as well. There we go. Beautiful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sink that needle in, get all these threads out of the way, which I need to be an octopus for, right? There we go, got them. I'm going to go ahead and sink that needle in. Perfect. Make sure I'm lined up perfectly back here and up here, which I am. I'm going to take a couple of very small stitches. Okay, and there we go. Just going to continue on. Does that happen? Yeah, it does. You just saw it happen. Is it fixable? Yes, it is. And don't get frustrated with yourself if that does happen, because obviously it happens to all of us at one time or another. Now, I could have cut that out of the video and you never would have known it happened, but I like for you to see how we are able to correct our mistakes, because even though we're educators, we still make mistakes. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take these threads and I'm going to bury them. And to do that, I'm just going to make an overhand knot, pull that knot to about 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch off of the top of the fabric, put the thread through a self-threading needle, run it underneath my fabric into the batting. We definitely want to make sure that that thread goes through the batting, and then you hear that little pop when the knot went into the fabric. Okay. And now this one, I'm basically going to do the same thing, but it's not going to be as easy because it's very short. But it still can be done. And there it is. So I'm going to pull up this thread. There's one. And here's the second one. Yep. There we go. There's the second thread. Remember to put your needle into the loop so that when you pull that knot, it doesn't end up right on the very top of the fabric here. You want it off of the fabric a little bit so that when you go to bury it, and I need to actually start my needle before I get my thread in there. When you go to bury it, it won't sit on the top of your fabric. It'll go ahead and it'll go right through. And in we go. There we are. We've got it pulled through. Got a little bit left over here. That's not a big deal. I'm just going to trim that off. There we go. Pull it all through, and there we go. Hardly tell it's there. You would have to know it was there in order to be able to point it out. Okay, so we're going to do our 4th rotation here. And spin my template again. And again, this is that very place where you want to be really cautious. I love this one for the secondary design that it creates. And the further we get into it, the more ornate the design, the secondary design gets. And I love it. And we're going to stop right there. So now I want to show you what the 4-point rotation looks like. Isn't that cool? If you live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan or northern Wisconsin, that probably looks like a trillium to you. Trillium is a native flower. Comes out in the spring. Okay, so now we're going to go on those 45-degree lines. We're going to put 4 more rotations in. Again, being very careful as we go over that cliff. And I do need to adjust just a bit. Now, normally you will not need to adjust your machine as much as I do. The reason that I do need to adjust it as often as I do is because it is a vintage machine and it does have a tendency sometimes to vibrate the foot loose. And then what I have to do is I just have to tighten it back down. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take anything special. And I like to just double check it, make sure it's good and tight in there. Okay, there we go. Around that clip, around the curve, to the point, to the curve on the opposite side, until we hit that clip again. And come back to center, making sure that our needle is down when we hit that center line, that center point. I'm sorry, it's not a line. Okay, here we go. There we are. You know, you could definitely leave this at 8 points and it's going to be very interesting and it's going to give you a lot of options and opportunity to embellish it if you wish. And you'll see that I do slow down and get really cautious when I'm going around that cliff. One more and we'll have our 8 rotations in. Excuse me. I'm trying to get over a little bit of a cold. Okay, so here we are at our 8th rotation. I love this. Isn't that beautiful? Look, you've got 3 different things going on here that you can, you could really do a lot of things with, coming up with echoes and the such. So now what I want to do is show you a 16 rotation. So I will go ahead and put my foot down. Again, I'm always going to go to the reference line across from the reference line I'm working on when I do my next rotation. And there we go, nice and easy around that cliff. I cannot emphasize that enough. I know that some people love to sew really fast, and if you do and it works for you, that's awesome, that's great. I tend to slow down a little bit. I tend to be a little on the slower side. I find that works best for me. What I want for you is to find where you're comfortable and where you get the best results, because that is so personal. We can teach a whole lot of different things. We could teach a whole lot of different ways, but we can't teach you into your comfort zone. You know where that is, and only you know where that is. So when you find it, relish it, enjoy it. The other thing is, when you're working on these designs, especially when you're new, there's going to be little mistakes. As long as I've been doing them, I still have little mistakes in mine occasionally. Don't point out those mistakes, okay? Normally, no one will notice them. And if you don't tell them there's a mistake, they'll never know there's a mistake. Allow yourself the grace to not be perfect. because we aren't. That's just all there is to it. I'm not, you're not, no one I know is. So go ahead and just thank people when they compliment you on your beautiful work. And remember the 30-30 rule. If you're going 30 miles an hour and you're 30 feet away, if you cannot see it, it's not a mistake. And if somebody's looking real close, you can tell them, well, that was a design choice I made. I love it. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up these 16 rotations, and then we will be back and I will show you the finished result. Okay, here is our 16th and final rotation. And if you remember that I said I really love watching secondary designs develop, well, with this template, you've got secondary, tertiary, quad. I mean, you're going a whole gamut of designs that come out of this template, and they're absolutely amazing. I think coloring this one in to make it look like stained glass or similar to stained glass is going to be absolutely a joy, because we have so many nooks and crannies and places we can go with it. So here is Spin Effects 14, and that's a 16-point rotation. Okay, there we go. That's it. I hope you love it. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. This to me is relaxing. It's fun. It's just a joy. It really is. Don't forget to go to sewsteady.com. You can find all the templates there. There's over 600 templates available to you. And please share, like, and subscribe to the 906 Quilting channel. I would be very happy to have you following us. And until we meet again with Spin Effects number 15, let's quilt.